Also with us this morning is Ojeka Patrick. He's the director, ASM, that is artisanal and small-scale mining in the Ministry of Mines and Steel Development. You are welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
It's a pleasure.
We also have with us Alex Ndubisi Unwebu, the Director General of the Nigerian Geological Survey Agency. You're welcome, Engineer Alex.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
And still with us on this discussion is Davis Henry Olapade, the Special Technical Assistant to the Honorable Minister of State, Mining and Steel Development.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, gentlemen, it's a pleasure to have you this morning. And let's begin with the National President of Miners Association, Alhaji Sani. Now, what does the National Council on Mining and Mineral Resources Development intend to achieve?
The council, for me, it is supposed to be an extended governance structures that encompasses representation from the federal, states, and local government. And in fact, other stakeholders, the traditional rulers, and so on. Now, I think the aim of that governance structures is to expand the stakeholders platform where observation, comments, and other happenings within the mining sector annually. Usually, the council is supposed to convene every year. So, for the last 1 year, all the happenings within the industry will be articulated. Observation, criticism, comment will be articulated, by the council from all stakeholders, and then channel it to the ministry. The aim, in fact, is to be an all-inclusive stakeholders platform, so that the ministry does not have, can I say, the monopoly of wisdom to govern the sector. So it's a kind of a space for general participation by the stakeholders.
Engineer Alex Uwebu, if you are the Director General of the Nigerian Geological Survey Agency, and if it's supposed to, if this conference is supposed to be an all-inclusive one for all stakeholders, one is tempted to ask, who are the direct beneficiaries? Your agency, the ministry, the Nigerian people. How does this impact on our economy, this event you're going to have?
Well, thank you very much. I think basically, just like he said, this is the second edition. And the Ministry of Mines and Steel Development is the main driver of the mining sector. And of course, we do not claim exclusive prerogative in terms of knowledge of running the sector. That is why we want to expand the space and create a platform where all interest groups will come with their special expertise to bring to bear on how the sector will be run. Basically, it's all about Nigeria. We all are aware that the mining sector has been in the doldrums for a long time, but thanks to the present administration, where it's intended to reinvigorate the sector. And having been taking the backseat for a long time, there are so many gray areas that we need to actually sort out. There are many of them, including the illegal mining, including security, including the governance structure, as he said. So it's, we want to expand the space and invite all stakeholders to come on board and offer some solutions to the teething problems.
Oh, okay, Engineer Ojeka Patrick, you are the Director of Artisanal and Small Scale Mining. Please, the theme of the National Council of the this year's National Council on Mining and Mineral Resources is centered on metals and minerals frontier for national development and economic diversification. Why that theme?
Thank you. The theme is taken to take care, because you know that the resources, minerals, by value addition is transmitted to metallic materials that are the industrial feedstock. And in this country, for quite some time, just like the last speaker has mentioned, issues of value addition of the raw materials that are extracted from Mother Earth in Nigeria has been a challenge. And the focus is for the operators now to add value to the materials, the minerals that are mined. Vis-a-vis, by this method, it will now reduce foreign flight. Because if you sell the raw material out, then it is processed offshore and then re-imported into the country and it is sold at higher cost to the nation. That leads to financial flight from the country. So we are looking inward to look at the possibility of reducing this flight and then instituting value addition to the sector.
It's nice to hear the word value addition. I was going to talk about utilization of the mined resources. But before we even talk about value addition, this council, will it also address the legality and legitimacy of some mining? We have heard of illegal miners in Nigeria across the country. Will this council address that?
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, the council actually, if we need to look at the structure actually, just as the other speakers have mentioned, is actually a platform where you bring in all stakeholders. You know, for us to actually achieve the presidential mandate of diversifying the economic base of the nation, we need to also do increase revenue and also create jobs, you know, and reduce unemployment. But this council is focused towards 5 thematic, you know, issues. The first one is about mineral governance, and the second one is looking at the issue of illegal mining, and then we're also looking at the issue of fiscal, you know, policies which we want to review. And then also we're talking about the conference will also be focusing on the issue of security of the mines field. So all these are geared towards one thing, and that is towards increasing the contribution of the sector to the nation's GDP. So talking about what the council is going to achieve is just to bring all stakeholders on board so that we'll be able to fulfill the mandate contained in the roadmap for the development of the sector, which is to move the contribution of the sector from 0.33 to about 10%, you know, contribution to GDP. So bringing all the stakeholders into one room to deliberate on how to resolve the challenges of the mining sector is crucial to economic growth.
Who will address this? Our environment is very important, and when we talk about mining, it depletes the environment in a way, whether we like it or not. Who controls what the miners do with the environment? Is it the DG that will take that? Oh, okay, the ministry? Let the ministry take that then. Yes.
Well, basically also in terms of controlling, we talk about mineral governance. And one of the things we need to look at is the aftermath of mining. Before you mine, you have environmental problems. After you mine, you also have environmental problems. No wonder, in terms of governance, the ministry, looking at the structure of the ministry, you have a department that is actually responsible for taking care of environmental issues concerning mining. And that is the Mines Environmental Compliance Department. And this department actually takes care of post-mining and pre-mining, you know, activities to ensure the sustainable development of our mineral resources and to make sure there is environmental sanity. So basically, this department also liaises with other, you know, government agencies and MDAs like the Ministry of the Federal Ministry of Environment, and also relate with other state agencies to ensure that the sanity
of the environment is actually, retained.
All right, thank you very much indeed. Well, your time is actually up. I was going to ask a question here, but there's no time for that. But we want to believe, quite frankly, that you are going to also engage foreign investors to ensure that we can mechanize our mining system. So at this point, we are concluding this very conversation, and we'd like to thank all of you for coming. Davis Henry Olapade, SA to Minister of State, Minister of Mines and Steel Development. Of course, Engineer Alex Webu, the Director General of Nigeria Geological Survey Agency. Thank you very much indeed for coming. And again, the Director of Artisanal Small-Scale Mining, Engineer Ojeka Patrick, thank you indeed. We're not leaving out, of course, the President of the National Miners Association in the person of Alhaji Sheikh Husani. I thank you all for coming.
Thank you very much.
All right, you're still watching Good Morning Nigeria. Of course, we have two other issues to tackle this morning on this show. But for now, let's take a short break, and we will return in just a moment.
Nigerians. Suicide bombers are not spirits. They are not ghosts. They are human beings like you and me. They live amongst us. They are your neighbors. They are your friends today, but terrorists tomorrow. So you must know your neighbor now. Security begins with you and me. Know your neighbor. Be vigilant. Be security conscious. Report suspicious persons, objects, and movements to the police and other security agencies. The security of our nation is a duty for you and me.
If you see something, say something. Nigeria, unite against terrorism. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
To the outer framers, the hat tippers, the fringe goers, you don't need to hide anymore. Try Dettol Even Tone. It cleans and helps to reduce the appearance of blemishes caused by oil, dirt, and germs, giving your skin a healthy feel for an even better you. Dettol, be 100% sure.
Dettol soap is now also available for 100 naira only.
Oh boy, climb this thing now. No be only to connect lights. Come you and yourself now. Now wow. Oh boy, come down now. Oga Kasali electrician who will look for with this. Oh, Oga Kasali, come help us fix this wire now.
Sorry, I no longer carry out illegal connection. It puts the lives of people at risk and can cause fire outbreak and disrupt power supply. I will never be part of anything that has to do with this any longer because change begins with me.
Oh boy, listening him talk makes sense. Oh boy, we could carry this ladder from
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
And to kickstart our discussion, let's now take this background report put together by Aisha Obali.
Like other climes, Nigeria has diverse landscape, beautiful surroundings, and many destinations with historic significance that have great prospects for tourism. These include the Yankari Game Reserve, Obudu Cattle Ranch, Zuma Rock, Kano City Walls, Lekki Conservation Center, and Olumo Rock, among others. In some countries, tourism sector has remained a significant sector contributing substantially to the nation's GDP. Over the years, the tourism sector has continued to witness expansion and diversification, while many countries have taken advantage of these to develop their economy. But Nigeria is trying to see how it can harness the untapped benefit embedded in this sector to make it become the mainstay of the nation's economy, thereby serving as alternative to oil. Available statistics from the National Bureau of Statistics show that tourism has contributed 34% to Nigerians' GDP and 20% of the nation's employment creation in 2017 alone. The United Nations World Tourism Organization expects that tourism will continue to grow at an average of 3% annually until 2030. As part of efforts to continue to create awareness on the socio-economic benefit of tourism to the nation, a day is set aside annually known as World Tourism Day. The day is to provide a unique opportunity to raise awareness on tourism, actual and potential contribution of sustainable development. The theme of this year's celebration is Innovation and Digital Transformation. According to United Nations World Tourism Organization Secretary General, harnessing innovation and digital advances provides tourism with opportunities to improve inclusiveness, local community empowerment, and efficient resource management, among other objectives within the wider sustainable development agenda. So how can Nigeria make tourism alternative to oil as the mainstay of the economy?
And joining us here in the studio in Abuja to discuss the subject matter is Otunba Olusegun Rusewe, Director General, National Council for Arts and Culture. I can call you Mr. Culture. You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much.
Also joining us here in the studio is Fọlọ́run Ṣókóka, the Director General, Nigerian Tourism Development Corporation, NTDC. It's a pleasure having you, and I think I'm comfortable to say Mr. Tourism.
Thank you very much. Okay, we also have Rabo Saleh, President of Federation of Tourism Associations of Nigeria. Good morning and welcome to the program from our Lagos end.
Thank you very much.
No. All right, sorry, from our Lagos end actually is not Rabo, but who we have there in Lagos is Lucky Honorio de George. I hope I got the name correctly. Publisher and expert on tourism. Welcome to the program. All right, let's now return to Abuja and kickstart this conversation on tourism development in Nigeria. I would like to go, first of all, to Otunba Olusegun Rusewe. Sir, let's have a true picture of tourism in Nigeria as of today.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me first and foremost congratulate the whole world for a World Tourism Day. Basically, tourism got to Africa a bit late. Reason best known to the projection we gave to tourism at the initial stage. But however, we've been able to key in. As of today, there are about 17 countries in Africa that has a major product of tourism sustaining their GDP and their economic strength. So as of today, in the last 8-9 years, Nigeria has been able to constant in terms of contribution to our economy and our GDP, 6% constant, which is not too bad considering the level of facilities available and the environment encouraging development of tourism. And I believe that with the present government involvement, giving all it gives to support tourism in another 3-4 years, we should be able to be making some very good contribution to our economy.
Mr. Fọlọ́run Ṣókóka, can Nigeria, for now, put forward tourism as a competitor to oil? The gap is so wide for now because oil is actually our mainstay. But because Nigerians, a lot of people think that tourism is still underutilized, at its best, can tourism fend for Nigeria?
Thank you. Absolutely. There is a tremendous amount of tourism in Nigeria already, but tourism, for some reason, is mentally restricted to leisure tourism. There's religious tourism. There's business tourism. There's ecotourism. There's economic tourism. I don't want to go down into breaking each one into. There's so many variants of tourism, which
is also religious tourism. Right?
Religious tourism is huge, especially in Lagos. Nigeria is like a mecca in terms of people coming to pray here in our churches. The Nigerian flavor of religion is unique. So people come from Southern Africa, from Eastern Africa, from Europe. They even come to see the traditional religions of the Oduifa in Ekpe. We must define what tourism is. We must see it as a business and take the components of it that actually add value to the GDP and ascribe it to tourism until we define that transportation is big business and the transportation involved in tourism contributes to GDP, that the hospitality industry is big business and the values can be ascribed, at least part of it, ascribed to tourism. And then the entertainment, be it going for the New Yam Festival, be it going to watch a concert of Wizkid in Lagos, all these things need to be redefined to say that tourism is here to stay. Now, if you look at the dynamics of tourism globally, it's the largest employer of labor at almost 300 million people. It strategically employs women and the youth. And if you look at the demographics of Nigeria and the problems we have, you see that it is actually not something we should look at as if, do we have a choice or not? It is something that we must do based on the strength of our population and the values that Nigeria holds as a large country in Africa.
All right, thank you, Florencio. Now, let's go to Lagos before we come to Rabot Saleh. Let's go to Lagos because Lucky George is a publisher and expert on tourism. Now, you've listened to the two DGs that we have here, and they mentioned that we have economic tourism, traditional tourism, religious tourism, and what have you. From your experience as a writer in this sector, do we really have the potential required to boost that sector as a competitor, as my colleague Femi did mention earlier, to the oil sector? Let's share your experience.
Yeah, good morning. Nice having me here. They made a good presentation, both of them, but unfortunately, I heard in the first intro that the Federal Bureau of Statistics said that tourism contributes about 34% to our GDP. How they arrive at that, only God knows. But I can tell you from my vantage position, having studied the sector in the last 24 years, the framework for calculating tourism contribution to national GDP has been set and been approved by the United Nations Economic Statistical Committee of 2002. And since then, our National Bureau of Statistics has not even updated their knowledge on how to calculate tourism earning. Otherwise, I would have agreed with the figures. But today, when you go to the Federal Bureau of Statistics website, tourism contribution is only limited to hospitality, accommodation, and food services. And when you look at the figures as to how much they contribute, it's less than $1 billion annually. Like Mr. Folenshaw was trying to pontificate, that tourism contributions are not being properly calculated and tracked. I agree with him. For instance, if you are buying a return ticket to travel to anywhere in the world, there's what is called tax. And this tax contributions is ascribed to tourism. The transportation he talked about is also part of it. And of course, the VAT and of course the VAT we collect from the hospitality sector, the hotels across the country. All this are not being legally, I should put it, accredited to tourism earning. And that is why subsequent government in Nigeria has not taken tourism very seriously. Beyond all that, he talked about religious tourism as one of the major contributors to Lagos. It's only one church. It's not, most people that come to other churches, I can tell you, they stay in accommodation. They stay in the church accommodation. The money goes to the church. But I can tell you of a particular church. When people come to the church, they stay in the hotels. I live in Igodu, Alimosho, part of Lagos State. I can tell you the life and our economy is dependent on synagogue church. That is what we call religious tourism. I've been to Israel. I've been to Jordan. I've been to other religious destinations across the world. We are not being treated as such. Again, has the NTDC, the ministry, done their work? It's not just enough to say tourism can do this, can do that. To me, it's still a dream that tourism can replace oil in Nigeria. And sincerely speaking, we need to do more. Perhaps as the discussion goes on, we still need to look at the structure of the UNWTO World Tourism Day celebration like we're doing today. How did the day come about? What have we achieved? Because the essence of this celebration today is to look at what we have done in the last 1 year and see and make projections for what we're going to do in the next 1 year. If you ask the DG of NTDC and perhaps my Minister of Tourism, Information and Culture, what have we achieved in the last 1 year? I'm sure they won't be able to tell you anything. So that is a problem because the structures are not functional. And of course, the Supreme Court judgment of 2013 has not helped matter, that reversed a lot of structural arrangement that runs the tourism institution in the country, whereby the states are now in charge of what happened within the tourism industry in their domain, like hotel registration, for instance, hotel classification, for instance. If you go to Calabar, a 2-star hotel in Calabar is different from a 2-star in Lagos. But all these hotels, nobody checks them. The standards are dropping every day. What happened to our airports? How do you promote tourism without a national carrier? I have been weeping in the last 1 week since the suspension of the national carrier project. I've been weeping. Somebody should tell me how a country of almost 200 million people do not have a national carrier, and we're proud of it. And somebody will come on television and tell us that because the man that was working on it didn't do it through the necessary process. We are leaders in our small businesses in our organization. If you notice that your subordinate is not doing something very well, do you wait for it to crash? No. You call him to order and you correct it. All this thing we didn't do. I'm weeping. I'm reluctantly here today because it's tourism, and of course, I'm one of the few custodians of tourism history in Nigeria, and that is why I'm here. That is why I honor this great station, the invite today. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been here. Because like the DG that is sitting down with you there, I can tell you, all of them, the private sector, we have not done enough, and we have not championed the cause of the tourism industry the way we should have. But we thank God to the life and the effort of one single man, Prophet T.B. Joshua, who has put Nigerian tourism on the world, Nigerian name on the world tourism map. That is the only product we have.
Okay, let's come to Rabo Saleh back here in Abuja, and let's look at, he seems to occupy a very vantage position because he is the president of the Federation of Tourism Associations in Nigeria. And this association is supposed to be in every part, every facet of tourism. How do you coordinate in such a way that the Federation is able to determine the positive movement, positive direction of tourism in Nigeria?
Well, thank you very much for that question. If you're looking at the position of FTAN, which is the Federation, we're a private sector arm of the Tourism Administration. We therefore work with the government and all the stakeholders in tourism to see to the growth and development of tourism in Nigeria. From what my colleague has just said, who is on the private sector too, you can see that he's not happy with the way things are happening in the industry in Nigeria. So generally speaking, we can say that despite the fact that Nigeria has all the potentials for tourism to grow and the investors are ready and are working to support tourism growth in Nigeria, but enough is not being done by the government because the government needs to create the enabling environment for tourism to thrive. You cannot expect tourism to thrive when you don't have sufficient infrastructure, when you don't have sufficient or well-trained personnel to handle the industry. All these things need to put in place. And when we have them put in place, then the private sector now becomes the driver who comes to work and make sure that these things are done properly so that the benefits of tourism can be felt. Because the essence is, for us, how do we really quantify and know the contributions of tourism to the GDP? If we don't put these things in place, if the Bureau of Statistics is not getting the correct statistics, is not doing the necessary things to get the figures, then we cannot be able, the government will not even be able to know that this is the contribution of tourism so that they can put more for the development of the industry.
Do you know that there are people who will suggest that the Federation, for instance, is supposed to be a contributor to the information the Bureau of Statistics dishes out? Is that correct?
Yes, it's very correct because we're already working with them. Like the Federation has recently, we're signing an MOU with the Bureau of Statistics, and we had a meeting during the last UNWTO summit. An expert from the UNWTO spoke to us. We had a meeting with NTDC and all the stakeholders on the need for collection and collation of all this data.
So if that is correct,
yeah,
how then is the data that is Bureau of Statistics throwing out, Lucky just questioned it now, you seem to agree, how is it questionable if you are supposed to be
Well, it is questionable because they are not taking the data from the necessary, the right places. They are just taking some few parts without taking other segments into consideration. Because the data, the contribution should not be only seen from hospitality, let's say hotels alone. The transport sector, the taxi, the artifact sellers, in fact, the entertainment industry, all these things they are contributors. Even the arrivals from the immigrations, these are figures that need to be taken so that we know how many people are coming in and how many people are going out and how much are people spending. We don't have these data, and unless we have these data properly collected, then we will not be able to convince the government that tourism is contributing to the growth of the economy.
Okay. All right, thank you, Rebel Saleh. We will likely return to you if time allows us. Now, let me go back to Otumba Ranshaw. Otumba Ranshaw, you've been a NTDC DG, and now you're also the DG of Arts and Culture. So that means that you have a greater understanding of what we're talking about. Now, in many countries where tourism is taken seriously, there has been deliberate development of infrastructure designed for tourism purposes. If you go to China, for instance, they take you to Great Wall, and similarly in other countries, they have something to show. Now, in Nigeria, there are so many tourism infrastructure that are yearning for development, for them to be attractive, for people to go there and see. There are many caves where I come from. Nobody talks about that. And other, like the cattle ranch we talked about now, we don't know I don't know exactly the stage it is now in terms of a development. No, so lead us into this. What are those specific areas in Nigeria that need to be infrastructurally upgraded to attract not just the foreigners, but also Nigerians?
Well, thank you very much. I need to say this here, probably today. You see, we speak too much English. In this industry, there's no need for it. What we need, how do we get food on the table of the ordinary Nigeria? Then, a fundamental mistake is that culture and tourism is one-line product. Culture is the product, the content that's supposed to be promoted by tourism. The fundamental two reasons why tourism is there is to market and promote. Can I come a bit closer home? It's like good yam with palm oil. You can't separate them. When you have the two together, then you enjoy it. Then coming back to your question proper. Unfortunately, for a very long time, we didn't get to understand what we're talking about. Do you know that this is the only sector in the whole world that nobody is useless? You don't need a PhD, you don't need an HND, you don't need an OND to be a creative person and add value. Another disconnection, which is very major, is we have allowed ourselves to be deceived. I coined a word, I said, oil is good, but culture and tourism is better. Because oil is exhaustible, but culture and tourism, it's inexhaustible. Now, you have the Chinese. I'll take the Chinese as a model. In the year 1994, the Chinese people took away over 3,000 Chinese physically inspired, blind people, out of the street. And they took them to a village. They were, all those bags you see coming to Africa and everywhere were being produced by those people. So we need to understand that this sector can create more jobs
reduce crime, and remove virtually poverty in our system. But how do we get into that? It's for us to key into the proper components and start to empower the right people so that when they are coming back, we have a development product. For instance, when you talk in tourism matter most time, people forget. Most countries of the world today, they go into what we call the SWOT analysis: strength, weaknesses, opportunity, and threat. We are always talking of our weaknesses. We have to depart from that. So that's my take on us being practical. We go into all the, for instance, I'm not too comfortable with all these statistics for obvious reasons. You will see all these economics, we come on television, speak big English, how the economy will be big. That's not the issue. The ordinary man on the street and woman who sells things, if they can sell to foreigners and generate money, our currency will be stronger than dollar.
Otobaruse, well, now I see why you did not answer Kirian's question directly. You don't want us to dwell on negatives. But we must look at what makes it possible, even for Nigerians, the local Nigerians, to patronize his culture and enhanced tourism. Now, let's go to it. I don't know when last, I grew up hearing of Ere Esie. That's Esie is in Kwara State, and there are some idols, some statutes that people said a town became statutes and all that. As secondary school students, we went to Esie to go and look at that. Years after, I tried to do that, and the road was impassable. Somebody said he tried to go to Ikaguse, Warm String, and could not get there. That is the question, Kirian. Infrastructure, at least for Nigerians themselves to even know what they have. Yes, culture is part of us and it's part of tourism. But people need to move around. People need to have like infrastructure. Why it's pulling down tourism itself.
I can't fault some of the things you've just said because the infrastructure deficit that the country has is huge. Every penny that the Nigerian government spends to make the life of a Nigerian better benefits the life of a tourist, a visitor to Nigeria. We have a weak foundation for even domestic tourism, let alone the international tourism that we're always talking about. And let's be real. The laws that govern tourism in Nigeria, they're 40 years old. In the last year, we have just passed them through Senate. We're waiting for the House of Representatives to concur. And it's not the laws that govern, it's also the regulations that govern the private sector institutions and establishments that need to be looked at, especially in the sphere of taxation. One of the things you will regularly hear the private sector talk about is the weight of taxation on their businesses. If you look at the human capital, the people who are in both the private sector and in the public sector, in the tourism industry, what drives tourism today is the digital technologies available. What drives, for even the information side of it, is the digital technologies that are available. Now, how much technology do they have at their disposal? How much training do they have? And at the end of the day, what is their welfare package? If you don't look at those two things, and then we go to the infrastructure. Tourism infrastructure starts with the TSA, for example, the Tourism Satellite Account. That is what allows you to measure what exactly you are earning from where, when, and that is what feeds into the National Bureau of Statistics. If you don't set up that structure, NTDC has now finally paid for the TSA account and the consultants to come and start working to set up that infrastructure. You talked about some of the places you went to as a child. There has not been any even token investment in those places over the years. But you compare them to a mall, there isn't a clean toilet that you can use. There isn't a little place where you can buy a cold bottle of water after driving 3-4 hours to a place. There isn't a souvenir shop that you can buy this thing and say, I visited this place. There is no signal. And once we don't have signal on our telephones, there's a degree of insecurity that we feel. Now, look at all those employment and income generating activities that are so base. the international tourism that we all talk about can only be plugged into a strong domestic industry. You go to Dubai, the taxi service, the hotels, the water parks, everything. That is a strong domestic industry that all airlines just simply plug an international ticket into. So for our domestic industry to grow even further, we need to achieve certain things. And the final one is financing. Finance is expensive. Finance is unavailable, both for the private and the public sector. If you cannot give funding, you can reduce taxes to create a void that people can then use to apply to investment. Just finally, we're a blessed country. We have our heritage, our culture, our arts, etc. As if that wasn't good enough, God now even stopped and gave us new mediums of cultural expression. Nollywood is #2 in the world. These are Nigerian creatives. The music of Nigeria dominates Africa and is, raging around the world. The fashion, the food. And I beg to differ on the issue of religion. The religion, RCCG, the Redeemed Christian Church of Christ, has 187 branches in 187 countries. It's bigger than the Nigerian Foreign Service. And once or twice a year, they come to Nigeria to have the major conventions.
All right, we'll stop you there. They have major conventions, but as our one in Lagos said, there are ones that are on weekly basis and not on an annual basis. But let's leave it at that.
It's about value.
Gentlemen, when you talk about tourism, tour alone means that somebody moves from one point to the other. Right, and I want to bring in Lucky George in Lagos once more. The infrastructure aspect of tourism development cannot be overstated, because when you move to other countries, they take you to a place. That place is unique for one reason or the other, and that is the attraction. And I'm concerned about the places that we have in Nigeria, places of interest, places of concern. Someone could leave UK to say, look, I'm going to Obudu Ranch to spend 1 week or two, as the case may be. In terms of arts and culture, Nigeria is doing well, because I recall DJ Ranshewe, even in the just concluded the World Cup, we saw what he did there, displayed Nigerian wares and culture, music, food, and what have you. That's a great deal of it. But let's speak to the fact that Nigeria doesn't have places to go to, places of interest, places of unique nature. Please speak to that.
Thanks for coming back to me. I can confirm to you that tourism is one of the most competitive industry in the world. And like we try to do in Nigeria, we try to sell everything that we think a foreigner should buy or even Nigerians should buy. It doesn't work that way in the travel and tourism industry. You hold on to a specific project that you think you have comparative advantage on. I am privileged to also serve as the director of marketing Abuja Carnival when the carnival was still running. That was a typical product we can easily sell in Nigeria. But unfortunately, it was mismanaged by the ministry, and of course, the rest is history today. Abuja Carnival has been abandoned. Let me educate maybe the DJ of NTDC, because I was very close to him when he was commissioner in Lagos State, and I was privileged giving him some information. And I can tell him 2 years ago when he was Lagos State was to host World Tourism Day, 2 days to the event as a commissioner in Lagos State, he was not aware until I stepped into his office and I told him, your state is hosting World Tourism Day. Are you aware? He said he was not aware. Let's put that aside. The DG must understand that there is what we call Nigerians returning homes are not counted as tourists to their home country. It's only when foreigners come that they are counted as tourists. Most of those Redeemed Church members, I'm a Redeemed Church member in the UK or in the US, but I can tell you that whenever I return home, whenever those members are coming home, they are 99.9% Nigerians. And under tourism earnings, we don't calculate such. It needs education on that. Secondly, synagogue church is different. 98% of people coming to synagogue church are foreigners. They pay for taxis. They stay in hotels. The economy of the whole of the Ikotun, like I mentioned, Ejigbo, Igondu, Idimu, survives on tourism. How many times has the DJ of NTA has he visited this place? He sat down there and he's telling us digital tourism. What is he selling? Ask him. Is it Obudu that the Cross River State government has abandoned for many years? Mr. DG, let me explain to you. In the world, Benin Republic is the capital of voodoo. If any
Lucky, please, just be very cautious, the way you approach this conversation, because we are here tinkering on how to better the tourism sector and not to perhaps address one of our guests as, please. I wanted you to speak on infrastructural development, but for now, there's no much time for it. Let's return to Abuja to Rabu Saleh. Rabu Saleh, please, what would you want to add with respect to the issue of having places to go to in Nigeria?
Well, thank you very much. You see, Nigeria has a lot to offer. But like you have rightly said, what we need to put in place is the infrastructure. Because if you don't have the infrastructure, which means good roads, good electricity, accessibility to all these sites, then we cannot be able to achieve a meaningful tourism, progress. Tourism, like we all know, thrives on a stable infrastructure. Because without which, how do people move? How do people even enjoy the facilities that are available in those areas? So there is the need for us. I think we shouldn't be, having blame games here. What we need to do here is, we're all stakeholders in this industry. How do we move this industry forward? What are we supposed to do? If we are to call on government to do the needful, provide the infrastructure where it is necessary. The government, DG NTDC is here, DG NCAC is here. What they need to do is to put up programs that will help or direct or assist government in putting the necessary infrastructures in place so that the tourism industry will be able to, to feel the impact. We, the private sector, our own is to, drive the industry. But the necessary environment for the industry to thrive has to be provided by the government. Then we will now start promoting domestic tourism, because first of all, we need to promote domestic tourism. Encourage Nigerians to move within Nigeria. When people from outside sees Nigerians visiting places of interest, that will equally encourage them to come in. That is when we will begin to now get the tourism dollar, the multiplier effect in our own economy.
Thank you very much, Rabu Saleh, President, Federation of Tourism Associations of Nigeria. Thanks for your contributions. I also want to thank Otumba Olusegun Rusewe, Director General, National Council for Arts and Culture. Thank you for coming on Good Morning Nigeria.
You have not spoken on my two products, which is very important, NAFES and INAC.
We will do that. Today is to look at the World Tourism Day and appreciate it and see how it can inject into our economy. Thank you very much. We also want to thank the Director General, Nigerian Tourism Development Corporation, Mr. Folorunsho Koka. Thanks for coming to Good Morning Nigeria. And in Lagos, we want to say a special thank you to Lucky George, specialist and writer in this area. Thanks for coming on Good Morning Nigeria. Yes, we shall continue with our third arm of this belt of this discussion on Good Morning Nigeria. But first, let's take this break.
From what we have seen, we have the capacity which we can rapidly develop or feed in ourselves. If we don't import rice, we stop importing corn and other grains, Nigeria would have plenty of money to invest into developing industries, especially manufacturing, textiles and so on, and develop iron and steel, and complement the infrastructure development. So really, the opportunities are virtually limitless, and we are very, very aware of this, and we are prepared to exploit it to the fullest.
Workers in Nigeria began warning strike over the inability of the federal government to reconvene the tripartite committee meeting to continue negotiations on the new minimum wage yesterday. The Minister of Labour and Employment, Dr. Chris Ngige, summoned the emergency meeting with the organized labor, but both parties took separate positions.
And joining us in the studio to shed light on this development is the Honorable Minister of Labour and Employment, Dr. Chris Ngige. Dr. Chris Ngige, you're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning to you. Good morning, everybody.
Now, we did not expect to wake up. We thought something would happen overnight. We thought government would stop this. Why was it not possible for government to hold the labor back, even at the last minute?
Well, if your child is bent on crying, even if you offer meat or sweet, he said, "Daddy, give me sweet," and you give, he will look for an excuse and still cry and give vent to emotion, maybe.
Give us an idea of the sweet and meat which you offered.
That's what has happened
this matter.
In this particular case, yes. Because the major mandate given to Labour by their National Executive Council, which they passed on to the Administrative Executive Committee, is for them to get the meeting reconvened. That they should take action to get the meeting convened or they go on strike. So by yesterday, we have reconvened the meeting. We have fixed the date because, just get it clear, the issue here is not a question of government unwillingness to address the issue of minimum wage. If government was unwilling, why do we put a presidential committee? It's a presidential committee inaugurated by Mr. President himself. So we are working in that system. And you know, and they know that this is a tripartite plus negotiation. In labor parlance, you have what is called tripartite when you have the employer, made up of associations of employers, organizations, Manufacturer Association of Nigeria, NASIMA, small and medium-scale industries owners, NECA, which is the parent employer, but that's a Nigerian Employers Consultancy Association, one side as employer. Then you have the unions, labor, organized labor. You have union in the public sector, you have unions in the private sector, you have union in conjoint sector, one side. Then you have government on another side. So these three people, these three partners, is what we call tripartite. So you when you're doing a negotiation that involves welfare of workers, anti-labor practices and everything, you do it on a tripartite basis. So, but this time around, we made it a tripartite plus. The ILO permits us to do tripartite plus. That's how we got in state governors into the negotiation, because most of the workers are in the states. Because these governors are sovereigns. The states are sovereign states in a way, in a federation. They're federating units. Then none of those states you have local governments. So we brought them all in, and we started this negotiation. It's not easy to carry everybody along at the same time, the same speed. No, you cannot. Even in a home, everybody doesn't develop at the same pace. You can have some children who are fast and those who are not very fast, but you bring up everybody, you make room. Anyway, that's the situation. And because we have gotten figures, because we finished everything. Yeah. The bill, we have done it. The report,
actually, that's why people are surprised that this is coming up.
It's coming up. Like I said, if somebody wants to cry, the child wants to cry.
So let me ask you this question.
So we have fixed a date by yesterday for reconvening. We have agreed on 4th of October, Thursday.
The usual thing that we have about 2 weeks notice, but this time around, we did a 1 week notice for us to reconvene, because that is the mandate given to them by the Executive Council. Get us a reconvening. And we have done a reconvening.
No, sir, let me ask you this question. The meeting of yesterday was to try and avert the current strike that had just started.
Yes.
But now, why was there a delay? There seems to be a delay or suspension of the tripartite committee meeting before now that led to the decision of Labour to even start this warning strike.
Yes, there was. There was, because some people said, we have not finished our studies. The governor said that they're doing studies of their incomes and expenditures in the last 12 years or so. They put up a consultancy for that, so they are not yet ready with their figure. Even if governors come with their figure, the economy of Nigeria, the entire economy of Nigeria is managed by a team, economic management team of the federal government, which is chaired by the vice president. So even if they come with a figure, it will go in there. Because we are doing a holistic thing that will take care of inflation, take care of unemployment, take care of... I give you a typical example. We can decide to do 100,000. I'll say, as a government, 100,000 minimum wage. Which means the lowest paid worker is 100,000. That's what the minimum wage is. The minimum wage is the base figure, the base. So if we do 100,000, and many state governments are unable to pay, many private sector people are unable to pay, they will retrench workers. They will retrench those who are already working. Create more armed robbers for me and you. Create more people that will be doing IPOB for me and you. Create more people that are kidnappers for me and you. And then security will break down. So government is a holistic thing. You bring inputs and puts together to make for a socio-economic stability of any milieu. That's what government is all about.
Yes.
So this is not simplistic as you think. We have an economic management team of the federal government. They are working on a figure that will be appropriate so that government does not retrench. They are working on a figure that when you bring it in capture all the people in the workforce, do a manpower budget for them, multiply the figure with that manpower figure you have, there will still be stability in the economy. I hope you get me.
Now, let's look at what we
So that's what led to go back to your question, to the suspension, because the wars have not been finished. Even as I speak, the National Salaries, Incomes and Wages Commission, a government commission that is empowered to look into issues of remunerations, wages, all allowances and everything is there. They compute it, they bring it out, and then you don't cause this disequilibrium.
Could it be true that this suspension there, which you have now opened up to us, was done unilaterally?
No, it wasn't.
Which is why this strike is now called?
No, it's not true. They know if we are at a meeting and we are 30 persons, and 5 persons say we cannot adjourn to this date, and 20 persons say we adjourn to this date, and 5 persons remain neutral, the 20 persons will carry the day. I wasn't even present at that meeting. I had come from Federal Executive Council briefly to brief them on certain things, and after I finished, because I'm the deputy chairman of the meeting, I head the federal government team, or the government negotiating team. And after I left, because I had asked for more time, for adequate consultation, because they wanted their chairman to meet Mr. President. I needed time to arrange that appointment. I don't know when it will be. The president is a very busy man, having come back from China, and he was going to go out again. So I had to put in my request. Luckily, I got my appointment in 72 hours. President was eager to see us, and we came and briefed him. And he said, get back to the economic team, where the worker, and let you people get the governors to make their input. We cannot go away out of this without the governors, because they are the people who are asking me for bailout fund. They're asking for a Paris Club refund, because they say and claim that what is being paid now, they cannot carry it. So they must do some microeconomics with their system, their funds, to give you a figure. That's where we are.
So what?
There are other issues too. They asked us to get. So we are doing that, and I had the right to ask for an adjournment to enable me get all the ingredients for the soup they want to cook.
So, eventually, I wanted to talk about it because eventually, when the governors come in with their own figures, that might affect the original figure or being anticipated by the workers. Could there be?
Of course, there must be a negotiation. That's why it's a negotiation. The workers initially started from 56. They later on changed it to 65 after public hearing in states. The organized private sector submitted initially 43. They went back to their drawing board, looked at all the parameters, and then submitted 25. So government, federal and state, we can even submit different things and then come up, put it on the table, and everybody will look at it and negotiate. That's what it is. Okay. So we are still on course, very, very much on course. So this is why this warning strike is like...
so what do we do about this warning strike? Because
no,
that process is still on.
No,
and Nigerians are hopeful about that process. Why?
The mandate is for them to get...
as a solution for this
The mandate is for them to get a reconvening of their meeting so that the government will come and put on the table a figure. Because that is what is holding the work. And that mandate had been fulfilled yesterday afternoon. So I didn't see any need for this strike.
Are you likely to call a meeting today again to make sure this strike does not go on till Monday, Tuesday?
They promised to take it back to their organs yesterday afternoon. Okay. And they were to reach me by midnight. They didn't reach me. When I reached them, they said they had difficulty in circulating and touching base. That's why I tell you that the man who wants to cry must cry. The child who wants to cry must cry.
Now,
so this is what has happened. We have fulfilled their demand. We have fulfilled labor's demand.
You have
meeting is for
tripartite meeting.
Yes. Now, and we agreed on that date with them. In fact, we asked for 2 weeks, which is the normal time, and they refused. And we gave in to Thursday. We'll do it Thursday and spill over to Friday. Our meetings are usually 2 days. So everybody has got his invitation to meeting, including them, all of them.
Are we positive that this strike would therefore be called off because of that reconvening?
No, I expect them to go. And if they don't call it off, then they are looking for another thing. I don't want to start agreeing with some people who said, oh, this strike is self-serving. The labor leaders are going for election in January. So they want to impress their constituents, their members, for votes, that they are doing something. You know, there are politicians like me that are canvassing for votes too, ahead of the election. So, but I give it to them that they will do the right thing.
Now,
they are my friends. They will do the right thing.
What will be your appeal to the organized labor with the fact that this strike has started? It's affecting the economy of the nation. So what will be your appeal to them?
We are losing a lot, even for a strike of hours, not to talk about.
So what will be your appeal to them?
My appeal for them is to ask their workers to get back. They will not give them forced holidays and things like that. It's not necessary. It's not very necessary. They also know that the approach is not correct. Because as Minister of Labour, I'm the Chief Labour Officer of the Federation. I did not get any letter of an impending warning strike. Never. And yesterday, they agreed. They said they wrote to the Secretary to the Government of the Federation. The Secretary to the Government of the Federation is the man who collates the various activities of the Government of the Federation. It's the engine house. He's not the Chief Labour Officer of the Federation. For today, I am. If I move to another ministry or I'm no longer Minister of Labour, then I'm not. But for today, I'm the Chief Labour Officer of the Federation. Anything industrial relations, disputes, conditions, welfare of workers, minimum wage issues, and everything labor, arbitration, is domiciled in my ministry. So if they write letter to Secretary to the Government of the Federation, fine, they are just doing it for information. I told them yesterday, you didn't notify me in writing. If you did notify me in writing, I would write you back and tell you
1, 2, 3 is being done. So they agreed that there was a but they say, oh, you did a press conference to say that we're intimidating government. I say, yes, because I didn't see your letter. So you are intimidating us. Because it's not allowed in labor balance, in negotiation. It's not allowed.
Now that
no, because a strike is an instrument of intimidation. A strike is an is an instrument of coercion.
Labor leaders will say a strike is an instrument of negotiation.
No, it's not. It's not. They know.
Now that we're appealing to them to return,
and
of course, we don't know how many days it will take for them to return. If they eventually return, what are the assurances that those who actually undertook the strike will not be affected in terms of salaries and all of that?
No. You know, this is a labor-friendly government. I've been a worker. I was in the ministry. I rose from level 9 to 16. And so these things, we put human face to things. We make rooms for failings, human failings and stuff like that. There will be no punishment, provided they know that this is a warning strike and that they should stop. This is the time to stop. Like I said also, the hog, the process, is 40.
You have explained everything. Are you likely to take a step today to reach them?
Why not? Why not? They're in constant touch with me on phone. I'll call their leaders. They have leaders. And find out what they're doing to stop the strike. It's not necessary. It's not necessary. We're still on course. We're still on course. And nobody would deny that the cost of living has gone up. Nobody would deny that the last minimum wage review took place in 2011. We're not denying it. But we are saying, let's get the appropriate figure. Because a cardinal thing in labor negotiation is ability to pay. Even the ILO, they recognize it. That's why it is inserted in big capital letters. Ability to pay. It governs any negotiation. So if you don't allow people to do research on what they can pay, and you go and they put a humongous figure, you have a spiral effect that can destroy the whole economy and put everybody in confusion and turmoil. Yes, we've seen it happen here. We've seen when some state governments couldn't pay and they retrenched workers. It happened in this country. We've seen when federal government even said there's embargo on employment, embargo on promotion. Didn't you see it? It happened here. This government doesn't want that. We are a friendly government. We love our people. We don't want to deny them what is their right. Can you imagine with that? Between last year to now, we have paid close to 75 billion owed by the Jonathan administration and past administration in terms of promotion areas, in terms of shortfalls in salaries, in terms of death benefits, transfers, and the rest of them all. Do you now say we're not labor friendly? We're worker friendly.
And just this week, you know, the retired staff of Nigerian Airways have just been
22.5 billion
for
yes, is released for them. We gave the university teachers their end allowances. Then the workers in the universities came up too. We gave extra. And today, holistically, on that angle, we paid 10, 13 billion, 10 billion, and 8 billion, 31 billion. We're trying, even when you look at the economy, what we're doing is like magic.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister of Labor and Employment, Dr. Chris Ngigi, for giving hope to Nigerians, because this morning I'm sure a lot of people are disturbed as to what to look forward to the end of today. Thank you again for coming to Good Morning Nigeria.
And Femi, we're hoping that before the week runs out, you would have a written agreement to them to at least stop the strike for now.
No, they promised me that they're reaching their organs. Okay. So the ball is in their court. Nigerians should know that the ball is in their court because we have fulfilled the condition they want. The conditionality have been met. We have reconvened the meeting. And we agreed with them on the date. It was their own date that we took.
Okay.
So the ball is in their court.
We now go to sports. The Nigerian national